Are you a procrastinator? Maybe you're watching this video when you've got 10 more important things you should be doing, but you're kind of putting them off. And if that is you, then listen carefully, because this is your most important task right now, to watch this video, because you're going to discover things about procrastination and how to get rid of it that most people will go to their grave never understanding, and instead use the same old motivational strategies that haven't worked before, aren't ever going to work in the future. My name is Peter Sage. I'm a published expert on human behavior. Spent the last 30 years understanding why do we do what we do, but more importantly, why do people self-sabotage? Why do people procrastinate? In other words, why do people know what to do, but they don't do what they know? Well, as I said, on this video, we're going to discover what exactly procrastination is, how to spot what kind of procrastinator you are. Yes, there are different types. Once you understand which one you are, you'll know exactly how to let that go. So first off, let's discuss what is procrastination. Well, it's where you know what you should be doing. You're consciously aware of the tasks that you should be engaging in, and you also have the skill sets on how to execute those tasks, but you have an unconscious resistance or even a conscious resistance that is putting them off. Now, this is not to be confused with delaying tasks because you don't have the skill set or you're confused about the priority on which they should be done. No, procrastination is you know exactly what you should be doing, but there's something of a much lower priority that you then distract yourself with. Why is that? Now, we're going to cover the three most common types of procrastinators and the three most common reasons why people procrastinate. They're tied together. And the first one is what most people lie to themselves about as being most common, which is a lack of motivation. Motivation only works a small amount of the time. And if you think that you're just not motivated to do something, you're looking at the symptom, not the cause. What is motivation? It's a lack of energy. It's a lack of willingness to want to do something. What a lot of people do is try to hype themselves up, try to get motivated, try to pump themselves up. And just like a balloon, that's pretty temporary. Afterwards, you're going to feel deflated again and have to re-motivate yourself. This is where most of the personal growth industry focuses on, just basically pumping up people's balloons short term so that you can then sell them another pump up experience. When it comes to doing things, we've all got enough energy in the body, ATP and glycogen, to get pretty much anything done unless you are starving to death. So when I talk about the energy to do things, I'm talking about energy which comes from passionate interest. Yes, energy is the product of passionate interest. You need motivating to get up early when you don't want to do something. You don't need motivating to get up to go catch the flight for your dream vacation. Kids need motivating to do homework. They don't need motivating to go and open their Christmas presents. It's not a lack of energy. It's not a lack of motivation. It simply means that what it is that you are looking to do does not rank high enough on your values list that it's important enough to you to want to do it. So instead of trying to go after more energy or pump yourself up, how do you fix that? You find a bigger why. If you can't find the why in the reason why you're getting up, go higher. What is something that can tie to your values? If you're not motivated to go to work, then what is a bigger why? Are you motivated to be able to create enough money in the bank through this job that you're grateful to have, because otherwise you'd be jobless, so that you can live your dream past that and become an entrepreneur? Are you unmotivated because you don't want to go to the gym because the thought of working out is painful? Or can you chunk up higher? And part of your value structure is that I want to be living vibrantly and have a huge health span for my future family or generations or grandkids so that I can be super granddad. Now, if it doesn't meet your values, you're going to need a carrot and stick approach. Certainly getting up in the morning, the carrot is you need the paycheck. The stick is you get fired if you don't show up. Going to the gym, the carrot is I want a better body. The stick is I don't want to be ill. If you are struggling to do things that you know how to do and it feels like it's just a lack of energy, there's no passion there, then it's often because it is not in alignment with what you value. So therefore, go higher and find something that links your values to the activity, even if you've got to go a couple of layers back down from your values to find it. That will help, because now it's not about the activity, it's about what you value. The second reason a lot of people procrastinate, it's probably the most common, not down to values, it's down to fear of failure. Oh, why do I say that? Because as human beings, we have an inbuilt, unconscious primary fear, which is the fear we're not good enough. And when it comes to failure, especially in society, a lot of people link their self-worth to their net worth. So fear of failure triggers the fear that we're not good enough. And most people will do almost anything to avoid that. Use this as a metaphor. If you have a task, which is like walking down a corridor, and at the end of that corridor, there is a door that says you've successfully completed the task or you have failed at the task. Depending on your sense of anticipation of your success, let's say it's writing out a business plan. You start looking at the door, you've got to open the door to walk down that corridor. Well, that's a corridor that has in your mind, a high chance of either failure or success. So if it's a high chance of failure, if the business plan doesn't work, then what happens? It triggers the fear I'm not enough. And what our unconscious does to protect us from that fear is say, don't even open the door to start walking down that corridor. Let's open a corridor that I know at the end of it, I'm going to have a higher chance of success, like cleaning out my cupboard, like washing my car, like doing something on my to-do list that I know I've got a much higher chance of success and a far less chance of failure. If you're a list maker and you always have the same things that don't get done on your list, the chances are you are prioritizing through fear of failure. What do I mean by that? If you have a list of 10 things, and for some people that's a very small list, and 3 of those things are things you really should be doing to maximize your potential, but you mean that walking down those corridors is a higher chance of failure, then you will put those at the bottom of the list, and your brain will now prioritize list reduction over potential outcomes that can help you live your truth. Become the best version of you. So now you get all 7 easy things on your list done, and the 3 things that were on there yesterday are now going to be on there tomorrow as well, because they are the scariest things. They're the hardest things. So if you're prioritizing easy over hard, it's not because you don't know how to do the hard stuff. It's not because they don't match your values. It's most likely because your brain has gone down that corridor and says, if I don't get this right, then it'll trigger the fear that I'm not enough. So therefore, let me go down all the easy corridors first and get those jobs done, and hopefully the others will just magically happen on their own. Disneyland thinking, but you know what I'm saying. So how do you handle that? Well, one of the first things to do is actually make the unconscious fear conscious. In other words, if you recognize that what you're putting off is something that you don't want to fail at, or you don't think you're good enough to accomplish, or there's a chance where it could backfire, or there's some stickiness around your certainty, ask yourself, what is it I'm really afraid of? What's the worst that could happen if I screw this up? If you keep asking that question with an open mind, not from a place of beating yourself up, not from a place of wallowing in fear, but if you keep asking yourself, well, what if I get it wrong? Well, in the case of a business plan, guess what? All business plans are theory. They are a gamble. It can only actualize in execution. And you only know if it's going to work once you execute. What happens if it doesn't work? Well, you write a different business plan. Oh, I don't want to ask that person out on a date in case they say no. What's the worst that can happen? They say no. Well, then what? Well, then I'll ask somebody else. You see, for somebody who gets rid of that fear, they can come to the realization that they never get rejected. They simply find out if the person has good taste or not. And you start to reframe the fact that these fears are nothing but ghosts. So first is identify, what is it I'm really afraid of? Am I afraid that somebody will judge me? This is one of the root causes of perfectionism. Most people strive for perfectionism when they realize that it isn't even a standard, it's the lowest standard, because you can never be perfect. But they self-justify perfectionism because it sounds altruistic. It sounds like I'm trying my best to be me, when the reality is there is no such thing as perfectionism. Most often it's I'm scared of screwing upism. So I'll keep trying to refine things. Just like with the procrastination tied into that, you go down a rabbit hole of research, hoping to get more certainty on a subject, when what you're really doing is putting it off because you're constantly looking for certainty, justifying, well, I just need more research. It's so common for the pattern. So ask yourself, what am I really scared of if this doesn't work out? And what's the worst that could happen? And if that does happen, then what? And if that does happen, then what? And you'll realize that we're living in a time in history where all of your worst fears, the vast majority are mental projections. Most people are procrastinators because they're also serial worriers, which means you're essentially paying interest on a debt you haven't even taken out yet. So when it comes to surrendering that fear, I like to see myself being able to step into a state of what I call joyous uncertainty. To be able to live in the space of a question rather than think that I've got to control everything in the outside world will allow you to surrender those small fears and start getting on with the task from a place of openness to curiosity. Let's get down this corridor. Let's find out, what happens when I open the door at the end. Did I do well or not? And if not, let's try again. And there's no self-judgment. Yeah, nobody else is judging you. They don't care. They're too busy walking down their own corridors or avoiding them. So when it comes to just letting go, ask those questions, and you'll find that procrastination no longer has to rescue you from the primary fear by trying to distract you into easy wins. Now, as a paradox to fear of failure, the third aspect of procrastination is fear of success. Yes, a lot of people fear actually going through the motions that they know would help them live a better life in case they're successful. Another term for this we often hear is imposter syndrome. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you take somebody who's a cleaner of a mansion. Every day they show up to clean the study and the library and around the swimming pool. And one day the family is having a dinner party. And they've turned around to the cleaner that they've built obviously a relationship with and say, hey, we'd love you to come and join us as a little thank you. The cleaner suddenly becomes very uncomfortable. Why? Because if they show up, they feel they may not belong. They feel that they're being judged. They feel that they're in the wrong room. They could sit at the table and have amazing food or caviar or champagne and feel absolutely awkward rather than at home in that scenario. There's an imposter syndrome going on. Most people who have fear of success and they're procrastinating on what they should do, they are essentially identifying themselves as the cleaner in a mansion who's been invited to a banquet. Why don't you deserve success? Well, it could be you heard your parents growing up arguing over money and you unconsciously link money to stress, lack of love, arguments, separation, fear. Therefore, whenever you are in the process of creating a business opportunity or offered an opportunity to create money, then part of you is self-sabotaging. You're pushing back. That limbic brain is like, well, no, I don't want to do that and I don't belong. That leads to a place I don't want to go, or I'm not good enough. All of my friends will not like me anymore because I'll be more successful than them, and they spend most of their time, as a lot of people do, pulling everybody else down the ladder so that they can feel significant about standing on the ground. How do you cope with that? Asking better questions, just simply redirecting the brain instead of I don't belong or I can't do that to what would happen if I did? So you open your mind to possibility. Who could I become? Who have I been hiding as? And what is my real identity? How do I have an identity shift around that? And you start hanging around more often with people that support the fact that you deserve to be more successful. That's where peer group really ties in. If you're hanging around with people who are constantly pulling others down, that are telling you why the world doesn't work, you're going to be one of them. If you're constantly hanging around with people that are coming from possibility, that are setting six-figure income goals, are looking at you and saying, hey, well done, I know you tried, but it didn't work, but let me share with you what I can help with. Or let me give you an opportunity. Or hey, let's go celebrate one of our friends' successes. You'll have an entirely different attitude when it comes to where you think you belong. If you grew up on the wrong side of the train tracks, you're going to self-identify with smaller houses, trailer park, poverty. If you grew up on the other side of the train tracks, same IQ, same physiology, same opportunities in the economy at large, you're going to identify with a sense of, well, of course I deserve that, because that's been your environment. So if you have any fear of failure and that is causing procrastination, ask yourself, how could I upgrade my peer group? How could I add value to other people from a place of supporting them on their journey? And you'll see that reciprocation come back. And before you know it, imposter syndrome has been completely left behind. Now, we've covered 3 different aspects of procrastination. I wonder if you self-identified with one or more of those. Now, this is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about teaching this kind of thing, because I've identified over 30 plus years in this industry that most people spend money, time, resources on trying to acquire knowledge to master things. And the challenge with that is that knowledge mastery will never change who you are. Self-mastery will always change who you are. And once you have self-mastery, you can start applying that to whatever knowledge you want to master at that point. But if you get those two the wrong way around, you are going to be on a hamster wheel of rinse and repeat, glass ceilings, feast and famine. And so I've dedicated my life at this point to really helping people master themselves. Now, if you like this video, please, click the notification, subscribe. If you want to share it with a friend you think might get some value on this, let's do that too. And hopefully we can make the world a better place with less procrastinators, more people living their dream, living their truth, stepping through their fears to become the best versions of themselves. And that way we can spread these kind of messages to more people so they can get out of fear, move into courage, so that they can live the life that they were born to live, not the one that most of society tells you you should settle for. I'll see you on another video.